President Trump's war authority may be getting a bit of a tune-up. A bipartisan group of senators led by Bob Corker and Tim Kaine have proposed a bill to update the AUMF. That's the authorization for the use of military force. If passed, it would replace the 2001 and 2002 bills that authorized the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. This all comes in the wake of the weekend strikes in Syria, the second such strike by the Trump administration. It would allow Trump to use, quote, all necessary and appropriate force against terrorist groups like al-Qaeda and ISIS. However, Trump would have to go through Congress if he wanted to use the military against any nation state, i.e. Syria. The president would have to submit a proposal to Congress every 4 years, and if Congress doesn't pass new legislation, the new war bill would stay in place. Senator Angus King, the independent that he is, summed up the bill this way.
It's not going to satisfy those who want it to be really a straitjacket. It's not going to satisfy those who think there should be no limitations. I talked to Tim Kaine about it. He said it's probably not going to satisfy either side.
Great. So nobody's happy. Maybe that's a good thing. Liberals will say this gives Trump carte blanche to use the military anytime he feels there's a terrorist threat. Trump loyalists will view this as reining in his authority after successful strikes in Syria. Back now with my panel. Beckett, what do you make of this proposed bill?
First of all, it's about time. We're now finally addressing a bill that I believe is older than when the iPod came out. So, this is old. So people talking about this now are finally at least able to address it. But the biggest problem I have with this, the first iteration of it, is that it is Congress handing over power to the executive. Congress
should be the other way around. Right.
It should always be the other way around. And the biggest problem with this, and hopefully we can delve into this a little more, is that this new proposal does not include any sort of built-in sunset for it. That's the big. So we're going to retinker this power that we gave to the executive, and also there's not going to be any end in sight for it. So what is even the point to this at this point?
And what do you make of the distinction that this bill tries to make between terrorist strikes and nation state?
Yeah, I mean, last week I said that, you know, I thought Congress was sort of abdicating its moral authority.
Yeah.
And you know, by not insisting that it authorize whatever. I also said I think a pretty good case could be made that going after Assad is outside the scope of the 2001-2002 AUMF.
In what capacity going after Assad? His chemical weapons factory? Yes. Got it.
Yes, because those were supposed, you know, that AUMF was supposed to give us, give the president leeway to go after the people directly involved in the 9/11 attacks. I'm happy to, as Beckett says, I'm happy to see that some members of Congress finally seem to understand that we don't live in a monarchy. Unfortunately,
of course, after the fact.
Yeah, well, of course.
Let's point out after the fact.
And the thing is, I don't know that this AUMF changes much. It specifically does not authorize an attack on a sovereign nation. So how would it authorize Friday's strikes on Syria? Those were not strikes on ISIS or al-Qaeda. They were strikes on Syrian buildings. The Pentagon itself says they were regime assets.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know how, but somehow the way things work is we get this AUMF and then it becomes this catch-all and it's used for everything.
Forever.
The idea that one person alone can take us to war against another country should be frightening to everyone, regardless of your position on Syria, whether you thought the strikes were a good idea or not a good idea.
Right.
That should frighten us all.
I think, isn't there, though, a question to be asked about taking us to war? Striking chemical weapons factories responsible for brutal deaths, I think you could argue does not take you to war. We're not at war with Syria right now. Would you argue we are?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We just struck the Syrian government. We struck infrastructure. We struck buildings. We struck scientific research places that are bad.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. But they are the Syrian governments. How are we not at war?
How about if some other country just decided after we killed a few 100,000 people in Iraq that they were going to strike our military targets? But they said it's just strategic targets. Would we feel like we were just, you know, an act of war was committed against us? I'm pretty sure we would. Look, the founders unanimously agreed that the executive branch shouldn't have these powers. As far as writing another law to reign, the laws already exist. There's the Constitution. The Congress has to declare war. We haven't declared a war since World War II. And there's the War Powers Act, which is very clear. The War Powers Act was passed to restrain the executive's ability.
It's not very clear, or it would be followed by the past three presidents.
Well, look, it is clear. It's just not followed. I think the Constitution is clear. But also, and I hate the idea that...
To that point, sorry, I'm going to let you finish, but to that point, Is it Congress's fault? I mean,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It's not. The president's using an authority power that he has, obviously.
They gave to me
because presidents are using it.
But if someone,
it's Congress's fault for not demanding.
There's blame to go around, but Congress should reassert its power. Right. And the idea that, the president is operating outside of his constitutional authority, therefore we should write it into law that he can do this is ridiculous. Right. The last 3 presidents should be prosecuted for war crimes.
No, I mean, but the first question of the fact that they gave it to him in the first place, Congress should rightly be raked over the coals for that. It was moral cowardice. They didn't want to make these decisions.
No,
so they
very clearly. This bill came out after the the latest attacks.
And they didn't want to make the decision. So now they're going over it again and giving it back to him. I don't think any man or woman in uniform should be sent overseas at the whim of the executive. This should be a question decided by members of both chambers, and we're not doing that right now.
Can I just ask a separate but related question about sanctions? So Nikki Haley, UN ambassador, came out a few days ago saying that new sanctions against Russia were coming down. Today, the Trump administration, Larry Kudlow, has walked that back. Are sanctions something, especially if you're not in favor of going to war, are sanctions something that this administration should be getting on the same page on in controversial do this?
I think they should be getting on the same page, and I'm in favor of increased sanctions on Russia, especially after their adventurism in Ukraine and after the role that various Russian companies have been playing in the Syrian chemical manufacturing.
I mean, all of Trump's military advisors are advising these sanctions.
Right.
Trump seems to be on his own and saying not so fast.
Yeah, I mean, yes, obviously they should all be on the same page. It's weird to have our ambassador to the UN going out and saying one thing and then a different thing happening. I mean, it would be weird. Yeah. Like you don't want if we had a Secretary of State, you wouldn't want a Secretary of State negotiating with another country and saying something, and then a day later the president's like, no, we're not doing that.
And you don't want our top diplomats to not be believed by the rest of the world. Okay, guys, stay right there. Back in a minute.